Mic test, mic test.
It's so astounding. Shocking.
Hello.
Mic test. Mic test, mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4, mic test. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thanks a lot for coming to Penang Institute at 8 o'clock event. Thank you so much. I'm Xiao Wen from Penang Institute. Welcome to Penang Institute. Today we are here for the Penang Institute and Lien Society forum, public health forum series. This is our very first installment. We will have more in the future. So without further ado, I would like everyone to welcome Dr. Sri Anna Fazal, the president of the Lien Society, to share a few remarks. He said he's going to take 45 minutes.
Hold my hand and let me go up. Fine. See, this is the kind of help that you need sometimes.
You need me a help?
Yep, no. I need it near me. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Apologies that we had to delay things a little bit, but it's so nice to see so many of you here, so many friends. For those of you who know Penang Institute, it's a very unique institution that hardly any state in this country has. A kind of think tank that is not only a think tank, but also a caring tank. That means it looks at, because some think tanks are just writing academic articles and so on. Here they have gone into the popular world. They have gone into looking at everything that Penang should be interested in and concerned in. And we are the only state that actually has a magazine, the Penang Monthly that you get, that is deliverable to anybody in Penang, anywhere. You can get it all over the place. So rare, so unusual. So it makes Penang a place where knowledge and wisdom is shared regularly, and we celebrate and we enjoy the many things that are here. Today, we are looking also at one of the very special issues. As you know, there is a happiness index in the world. I don't know how they measure it, whether you're supposed to smile, big mouth, and you get more points, or people argue about the index, and they say Bhutan, is supposed to be more the happiest state. I did go there, but I saw a lot of people not smiling. So I don't know how they measure. Maybe it's by don't complain in the place. And this institute now is doing a whole lot of work. We also had in Penang, we contributed one of the greatest doctors in modern history to the world. And he was a Penang Free School boy, Dr. Lien, who at that time, when he graduated, he was the number one student in Cambridge. Every year he was there. But when he finished and he came back here, he cannot be a doctor. He can only be only Europeans can be doctors. Interesting. Why? Because that time there was racial, you could say colonial racial discrimination, where even clubs had Europeans only. Penang Hill Railway, one class Europeans only, the other one others. OTHERS. Interesting. I mean, that's the kind of world that he came. And what was Penang's biggest revenue at that time when he came back? Opium. Penang. Yeah? More than half of his revenue was actually from opium. Opium had been banned in England. State government is there. So he started the anti-racism society. He started the anti-opium society. He was such a gentle, quiet, small person. And Dr. Ong is like a replica of him, very gentle, small, Only thing he doesn't wear a military uniform, which Dr. Wu very often is pictured because he got so sick of this place. They even went and arrested him when he was running a clinic and asked him to open his emergency box. And in there they said, there's some opium in there. Oh, you have no license to sell opium. He's not selling opium. He's a doctor, and opium is used as a pain thing. And every other clinic was having this kind of thing. They chose his clinic, deliberately created an offense, sent him to court, and fined him a big sum of money. Can you imagine the kind of things that you have to go through? Very stressful for him. Yeah? But one of the wonderful things with him is that he never allowed stress to come in his way. He kept on doing all the good that he could do. And then suddenly in China they had a plague which was wrongly identified as the bubonic plague, when actually it was the pneumonic plague. And he went there, he treated the place, he saw it, he identified it, and he also initiated cremation, because at one time in China, to cremate somebody is like sending them to hell, you know. Yeah. So nobody cremates, but he said that if we don't do the bodies, because it was pneumonic plague, flies, everything catches it, and it just spreads everywhere. Wrote to the emperor said, go ahead and cremate. And he made all the action he took. Say everybody must wear and cover up their mouth. And now he is well known, for the Lien mask, in the play. He saved China from extinction, literally, practically. All because here was a doctor who really cared, who understood. He had the kind of professionalism, and not just the professionalism, but also the kind of assertiveness, but a gentle assertiveness to do all the good things that was necessary. He set up the Chinese Medical Association. He hosted global conferences on public health together with WHO in all those early years. And he came back. He didn't want to come to Georgetown because of the bad history. And he went to Ipoh and set up a simple family clinic and helped out and did things. And I mentioned this because Vulente and Penang Institute are both partners in this area, and we felt that understanding history is just not something about the past. These are things that are so relevant during the present time. And we decided to continue this tradition by having a whole series of programs under the Vulente Society in conjunction with PI. And then we decided that one of the things that now is the biggest important challenge, because every time we are hearing COVID, then now we are hearing smallpox or monkeypox, monkeypox. And somewhere else somebody will say this and this. And every time a health issue comes up, it becomes a big rumor. And nowadays with WhatsApp, you can reach 1 million people in every country and tell them there's a problem, and everybody panics for a while. Quickly go and search the cupboards, go and see the pharmacy, go and do whatever it is. I mean, it's a whole new world, a whole new world in terms of how health issues, and they lead to stress also, because they really create very often stress in terms of the thing, stress in terms of also having to spend money on these things, and then pseudo money. Pseudo illnesses can emerge, in which people become even addicted to drugs. So with that, thank you so much for asking me to say a few words. The Vulente stories are here, and one of the things I've admired, Dr. Ong, he could be my son. I mean, he's also from the Penang Free School, and of that age, he has. I have to confess that I have a conflict of interest. He's been taking care of my heart for the last 30 years. Keeping an eye on it. He knows that it's not a big problem. It's a bit celebrating here and in the place, but keep yourself busy, keep yourself happy, keep yourself things, and keep them going. So do have a look at those books also before you go. So with that, it's my great pleasure for you to then take us to the next step of this. And before you do, you have to help me to get down.
Yes, I will do that.
I'll be very stressed. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Round of applause, please. Thank you. Right. So tonight, I think Dr. Sri have made a very good introduction. So we're talking about mental stress, inflammation, and heart disease. And you're not going to hear it from me, you're going to hear from Dr. Ong himself. But before that, I would like to introduce to you the chair or the moderator for tonight, Dr. Teh Yew Yao. Sorry, Dr. Teh Yew Yao. He's a graduate from UM in 1997, completed his master's degree in psychiatry from USM in 2004, and he completed geriatric psychiatry subspecialty fellowship training in 2010, and he's currently the head of Department of Psychiatry in the Penang General Hospital. So he has published work on geriatric depression scale, okay, this is challenging medical words that I do not want to attempt to read. So, but other than being a doctor, a psychiatrist himself, he is also very active in promoting mental health awareness to the community. He is the vice chairman, currently the vice chairman for iLife Suicide Prevention Association and Penang Dementia Association, as well as the current treasurer for the D-Home Mental Health Association. So tonight we have Dr. Yew as our, Dr. Teh as our moderator. Dr. Teh, please.
Okay. Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sri, and today's speaker, Dr. Ong. Today I came here. It's my pleasure that I'm invited to be a moderator. And one thing I realized that more people know Dr. Ong than me. So anyway, thanks to kind introduction for the moderator. And now it's my duty to introduce Dr. Ong anyway. Yeah, so Dr. Ong, okay, why I promised to be moderator? Because he is my super senior. Both of us graduated from UM. I graduated in 1997, but Dr. Ong graduated from the University of Malaya in 1983. Yeah, and he subsequently obtained his membership of the Royal College of Physicians in the UK in 1987 and his Master of Medicine in Singapore in 1988. Okay, he asked me to cut it short. Okay, so he is a consultant cardiologist. The mind and the heart has a very close relationship. So today we have a consultant cardiologist to talk about the stress and how is it linked to the heart disease. Yeah, and can we do anything to protect ourselves? Yeah, okay, let's join me to welcome Dr. Ong to present his lecture.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dato Sri. Thank you very much, Penang Institute, Dato Hui and Ms. Ong, COO. Thank you, Dr. Teh, for your very kind words. Today's talk is slightly different. Most medical talks you go to, the doctors will tell you, I have something for you. I have a good medicine, good procedure, good operation. But today, I'm going to try to tell you what you can do for yourselves, what you can do to protect yourself from disease. The second thing about the talk is, I talk of we, because ultimately doctors are also patients. And as we grow old, we will face the same problems as you have. And stress among doctors is a very big thing. Suicide rates very high amongst doctors. So mental stress, inflammation, and heart disease, can we do anything? Now, first of all, we've got to understand what the heart is. See, the heart has blood vessels supplying, the lights are not coming on. Miss Chan, can we have mine, please? See, the vessels of the heart supply blood to the heart, and they are the things that everybody knows about. Thank you. Yeah, that one also. So, the vessels of the heart supply blood to the heart, but there are more than vessels that can go wrong with the heart. If you open up the heart, there are muscles inside, and that is needed to pump blood around the body. Then you have the conducting system, the wiring of the heart to make the heart beat. And finally, there are valves, doors inside the heart to guide blood to flow from one part to the other, one by one. Think of the heart as a washing machine. Now, the washing machine has water supply pipes. They supply water. They are like the blood vessels of the heart. They also have a motor to drive the clothes. They are like the pump of the heart. You then have the wiring system for the washing machine. If the wiring system is out, the machine can't work. And finally, like the heart, there are valves, there are water valves that guide the flow of water from one part of the washing machine to another. So this is a complicated picture describing how the heart can get disease. But essentially, to put it simply, a heart attack happens when the heart muscle is damaged. But a heart attack must be damaged from insufficient blood supply. That we call ischemia. So think of it as the washing machine again. The pump, the muscle is damaged, but due to a blocked water pipe. Now, the other way your supply of water can be obstructed, can be faulty, is when there is low water pressure. So the supply of blood to the heart can also be damaged when you have generalized disease. Say you have very low blood pressure, very low heart rate, very bad infection. So when PBA cuts off the water, your motor will also be damaged. So a heart attack can happen not just from a block in your water pipe. It can also happen from a shutdown in general water supply. And for this shortage of blood type of disease, we call it IHD. The normal one is when the patient is quite well, it's stable, but it progresses to be unstable, and then myocardial infarct. Non-STE and STE, we call it acute coronary syndrome. I'm introducing you to these terms because I'll be showing you papers, and papers talk like that. So basically, when there is a shortage of flow to the heart, it progresses from stable to unstable and then to heart attack. But there's more. There's more. The heart muscle can also be damaged, not from a problem of water flow, not from a problem of blood supply. The heart muscle can also be injured directly. It is not a water problem, it is a motor problem. Now, this is very important to remember because almost everybody now just talks of blocked water pipe, blocked water pipe. But when your heart muscle is damaged, when your motor is gone, your washing machine is gone. And the motor can be damaged because it is badly made. It's genetic. Your family comes with that disease, and bad luck for you. When you reach a certain age, your heart motor is gone. We call it cardiomyopathy, heart muscle disease. And this is what this talk is about. This is what this generation of medicine is about. After COVID, we now know that the heart muscle can get inflamed. That when the heart muscle is inflamed, it can be from a COVID infection. Any form of infection can affect not just your throat, your lungs, but also your heart. So there is direct injury to your muscle because of the virus. At the same time, if you have a generalized disease, kidney disease, joint pain type of disease, your heart muscle can also be affected. Now, if you take certain toxins, too much alcohol, for example, certain drugs that they use to treat cancer, if you take this sort of medicine, bad luck to you, your heart muscle can be inflamed. Notice the last thing there, vaccines. In this time, many people have gone through vaccine, and you have come across vaccine-induced heart trouble, myocarditis, because vaccines induce inflammation. That's what it does. It makes your body produce immunity to fight the coming infection. But this immunity can affect the heart, producing myocarditis. And finally, mental and physical stress can produce inflammation to damage the heart. Note that it is all types of excessive stress, not just mental, but physical. So can you run and run until you die? Yes, you can. I've seen people play computer game, until they get a heart attack. Can people get angry until they get a heart attack? Of course. It's fairly common, and it becomes increasingly common now, maybe because there's a lot of inflammation going around. After COVID, with so much inflammation, our water machine is a bit rusty. So we have got to look after it. Listen to this story. 6th August, 2 weeks ago, a 32-year-old woman died suddenly. She complained of palpitation. The doctors in UK told her it's stress. Now she's 32 and she's female. So coronary artery disease, the block of the blood vessels is very unlikely. What happened to her? This was the inquest. 2 weeks ago was the inquest. She died in March and she was calling her family to tell them that the heart was playing up. Notice the description. She just describes vague discomfort, but soon she died. So this is not a heart attack. And at autopsy, they found that, at inquiry, they found that it was myocarditis. So the heart muscle was inflamed. Look at this paper, published August 14, just 6 days ago. And this is in the Journal of the American Heart Association. Work-related stress can increase irregular heart rhythm. Now, what is work stress? There are two types. One is high job strain. You see the ladies and gentlemen of Penang Institute over there trying to get things in order. So they are very high job strain. And so they are at 83% higher risk of atrial fibrillation. Now, the other is no appreciation. If you work and your boss don't give you bonus, then you are not appreciated. Or a friendly hug now and then, which of course I don't give you. So if the staff doesn't feel appreciated, there is no reward from the effort, then they're at 44% greater risk of atrial fibrillation. And if they're both high stress and no reward, almost 100% higher chance of irregular heartbeat, atrial fibrillation. Now, this is a paper I co-wrote with a professor in Shanghai, China Jiao Tong Daxue, that came out in General Psychiatry December last year. The impact factor is 5.3. It was advertised as 11.1, but that is a citation index. This journal is better than the Singapore and Malaysian Medical Journal, but nowhere near the great journals, the best journals of our medical world, Lancet and New England Journal. This is a very topical matter. Look at this, June 2024, Royal College of Edinburgh, holding a symposium on heart disease and depression. Shanghai in August, holding a seminar on both heart disease and mental stress. And then look at this, November 2023, a review article on the brain-heart axis. Note the word inflammation again. So this is a very topical matter. Now, I start by showing medical journal articles. And this comes in 2016 BMJ, Health, Anxiety, and Risk of Ischemic Heart Disease. So looking at 7,000 people from Norway over 12 years, those who are anxious, worried about their health, have a 6.1% incidence of ischemic heart disease, blockage of the blood vessels causing heart trouble. But if you are the type that is not worried, you are the relaxed type, over 12 years, only 3% will get heart disease. So you have over a doubling of the risk if you are the anxious type. So don't be anxious, look after yourself, but anxiety, no good for you. Next, this is from China. This is from China, and it is in the Journal of the American Heart Association. 500,000 people between 30 to 79 followed for a long time, between 5 to 9 years. Now, those with major depression will have more heart disease, 8.76 per 1,000 patient years compared to 7.21. So don't get depressed, because when you get depressed, it's not just your mind that's no good. Your heart then gives up on you. So more heart disease amongst the depressed. And this is a 2021 paper from the Journal of the American Medical Association. Now, it is very difficult to study mental stress inducing heart trouble. How do you study it? In this paper, the doctors looked at almost 1,000 patients with blood vessel blockage disease, ischemic heart disease, and they tested them by mental stress and physical stress. Now, physical stress, you know, we all put our patients on the physical stress treadmill because we stress your heart and we look for evidence of inadequate blood flow. Everybody does that. But now they do a different thing. They make them speak in public. Make them speak in public as a mental stress, and they look at the heart to see if it is showing evidence of ischemia, shortage of blood flow. So they used nuclear imaging to look at the shortage of blood flow, and then they followed up these patients looking at their cardiovascular death and heart attack. How do we know that a patient has more severe disease? He will die faster or he will get a heart attack. So they find that over a 5-year period, there were 156 deaths or heart attack. Now, these are the results. The first thing is, how often is it? They find that of these 1,000 patients, 16% of them will have mental stress producing ischemia. So if you are a heart patient, and as we grow old, almost all of us will be heart patients, 16% of you will actually have mental stress that produce heart disease. What about when you try and run to see if the disease comes on? About a third, 30% will have, and 10% will have both. So it is not a rare thing, it is almost 1 in 5. And after 5 years, those who have heart attack and death, in those with mental stress ischemia versus no ischemia, the risk is double. So if you are the type that has mental stress, your chance of having a bad event in 5 years is double that those who do not have any ischemia. What about if you have the physical stress type? Well, your chance is only 40% higher. You are 1.4 times the risk. Remember, if you are mental stress, you are double the risk. But if you are the physical stress type, which is the type we look for, you're only 40% higher risk of getting heart attack or death. And if you have both, that's very bad news. If you are the type that has both mental and physical stress, you are 380% chance of getting a heart attack or death compared to those who are healthy. So the end result is actually that mental stress ischemia is a bigger risk than conventional ischemia. And these are all conclusions taken from the journal, Now, why? How does mental stress, how do mental conditions cause heart disease? Because in mental diseases, there is general body inflammation. Now, this is the problem we have. When a person is depressed or anxious, we say it's all in your mind. And the patient too feels he mustn't admit it. When you tell them you are stressed, they will laugh and then they'll say no. Now, when they say no, it means they won't admit it. But by the fact that they laugh, it means they feel it is there. But there's an embarrassment in trying to say, yes, I have stress. When you have stress, it's not in your mind. Because when you have stress, whether it's anxiety or depression, the inflammatory markers in your blood are high. So when you are mentally stressed, anxious, depressed, your blood is inflamed. And this is something we now know, which we never took seriously. We say it's in your head, get out of it, work harder. But no, your body is inflamed as real as if you have a joint pain, as real as you have a fever or a sore throat. There is inflammation. Now, when you have generalized inflammation, the blocks in your heart grow fast. And heart attacks are due to the blocks growing, rupturing, and heart attacks come. Is there evidence for it? Is there evidence that the blocks in the heart can grow, rupture, and cause heart attacks? Or is it the degree of the block? Now, every patient thinks the more severe the block. They always ask, what's the percentage of the block? Everybody feels the more the percentage of the block, the more the risk of heart attack. The evidence doesn't say that. Let me show you. This is a paper about 20 years ago, and it looks at inflammation markers of people with unstable angina. Remember what I told you before? The stable patient is stable, then they become unstable, and then heart attack. So they look at patients whose unstable angina come from the left artery. They look at patients whose unstable angina comes from the right artery. They look at the stable angina and vasospasm angina. That's another type where there's no block, but the artery just squeezes. And then they look at normal people. And what they looked for was to measure inflammation in different parts of the circulation. Now, if it is a block problem, that means you say the more the block, the more the inflammation, the more you'll get heart attack. Then obviously, when the block in the left, inflammation should be in the left. If the block is in the right, inflammation should be in the right. And it shouldn't be generalized. But that's not what they found. Look, they found in general, inflammation is higher when you are in unstable angina. That means if you have angina, chest pain, or vasospasm, it's different from you become unstable. Unstable is not a progression of a stable disease. It's a new condition. Inflammation is higher when you are unstable. Next, the inflammation is not confined to where the block is. If your block is in the left side, your right side is also inflamed. If your block is in your right side, the left circulation is also inflamed. So instability is not a local problem. So this is their conclusion. Inflammation is not confined to where the culprit stenosis is. Inflammation involves normal arteries also. So conclusion, unstable angina is different from stable angina from normal people. Unstable angina is a condition where inflammation happens, which means stable blockage and the heart attack, the unstable patient, they are two different types of patient. Inflammation occurs with unstable angina, and the inflammation is not at the site of a single block. In unstable angina, there is widespread inflammation in the whole circulation. So this relationship now between instability, heart attack, inflammation is actually quite clear. This came out 20 years ago, but nobody thought too much about it until now. Now, this is another interesting paper talking about the degree of block and the risk of bad things happening. So, this trial was about 3,000 patients, 4,000 patients, looking at people who were given medicine or put on angioplasty, comparing them after 5 years. Because they studied them when they went in, they look at their blocks, they know where the blocks are. Then when the patient subsequently, develop a heart attack, acute coronary syndrome, or become unstable and need angioplasty again, they know where the blocks are. So this looks at where are the blocks of the patient, where are the blocks of the patient who is unstable? What were the blocks in the beginning when they entered the study? So I repeat myself. This diagram shows how the blocks were when they entered the study. At the time when they were unwell, subsequently, they did an angiogram, they looked at the blocks. But because they had the original angiogram, they knew what it was like before. Now, if severe blocks are more likely to cause the heart attacks, then most of the blocks producing the heart attack should be initially more than 50%. It cannot be 20, 30%, you know. It should be the 60, 70, 80, even 90% producing all the heart attacks. But look at the result. The initial blocks were little bit less than 50% in about 30% of the heart attacks. So in 30% of people with heart attacks, when you do the angiograms a few years ago, it was very little block. And in about half the patients with a heart attack, yes, they had blocks above 50%. And if you have a angioplasty done, and if it becomes blocked again, it's quite bad. 20% of the times it will produce a heart attack. So it is not the initial percentage stenosis that seems to determine whether it will subsequently cause a heart attack. Because if it is the initial percentage, then this more than 50% should be very, very high. It should be 90% of all the heart attacks came from the more severe blocks. That's what this paper is trying to say. And this is a Japanese study. Now, this is on patients waiting for angioplasty. And these Japanese people were very good because medicine was free. And this was in the early, 1997. So medicine was fairly inexpensive. And every 4 months, they did angiogram. While the patients were waiting to have an angioplasty, they took them and did angiogram every 4 months, you know, and they produced these results. they showed that the way the blocks progress is different. Now, some blocks don't grow bigger, some blocks gradually grow, but some blocks don't grow and suddenly grows. So in type 1 plaque progression, that is the blue line, the stenosis did not change for the first 8 months and then suddenly increased over the last 4 months, and 71 of these patients will get an acute event. They will get a heart attack. So if you are the type that your block suddenly grows, bad news, you get a heart attack. If your type of progression is gradual, stenosis gradually increases, only 14% of you get heart attack. So if your plaque grows gradually, don't worry. Even if the plaque is more severe than others, but you don't know if it's the type that's going to grow gradually, nothing will happen to you. And good luck to you if your plaque doesn't grow at all, and that is possible, then you never get a heart attack. And only 2% of you will get chest pain. So when you do an angiogram and look at the block, you can't tell the future. People think you do an angiogram, you look at the block, the more severe, the more likely to get a heart attack. That's false, because the more severe block may grow gradually, nothing happens. But the little block can grow suddenly, and that's a heart attack. And these are real life things I've seen, you know. A GP had an angiogram done, and he was told that don't worry, 40% block. 9 months later, he had a heart attack. And he was very angry with the cardiologist for not doing something. But the cardiologist was absolutely right. At less than 50%, less than 70%, you don't do anything. But because he was stressed, because he became inflamed, the GP got a heart attack. So it is like that. It is not the degree of stenosis at any one time, but the rate of future plaque progression that determines whether you get a heart attack. So it is the rate of your future plaque progression. Now, the point is that the blocks can enlarge relatively quickly before your heart attack, and the plaque progression must happen before the plaque rupture and a clot forms. Plaque progression is associated with inflammation. On this point, we are clear, and I'm quoting word for word a review in the Journal of American College of Cardiology in 2019. So now we are quite clear, you know. Now, if doctors say otherwise, that's different. There might be other reasons, commercial pressure or whatever. But it is clear from our journals and our literature that plaque progression must happen before an acute coronary event, and plaque progression is associated with inflammation, not with the degree of original block. Okay? I go back to this picture again to show you that this is actually the 2018 Fourth Universal Declaration of Heart Attacks. You know, I told you the type 1 heart attack, which is due to a block, having a clot, the water pipe that's blocked. The type 2 heart attack is due to shortage of blood flow that's due to a generalized disease like PBA, low water pressure, you know. But heart attacks means there must be damage to the heart muscle. Heart muscle can also be damaged by inflammation, directly damaged, we call it myocarditis, or if born that way, we call it cardiomyopathy. Now look at this, Takotsubo. We know for a very, very long time that there is such a thing called Takotsubo, described by a Japanese, and this is mental stress-induced myocardial injury. The classic story we were told was of this lady whose husband has died, so she is very sad. Then she went to work, and at the workplace, the factory had closed, so she was retrenched. And she was very sad. Husband died, retrenched from her job. When she went home, the house was on fire. The house burned down. And she immediately had severe chest pain, went to ICU, and they saw great heart damage. 3/4 of the heart was damaged, but the circulation was open. That means the problem was not a blood supply problem. The coronary arteries were clear, but the heart was damaged due to mental stress inducing heart muscle injury. Now what happened? After 2 months, she became all well. Left ICU, almost perfectly normal. because it's recoverable. Now, since COVID, I've seen no less than 4 or 5 patients like that. Different types of mental stress producing a bad heart situation. A very clear example was a man who came to me at 3:30, just regular follow-up. I stressed him once a year, and he was there for his regular stress. Now, he usually runs 7 minutes on the Bruce protocol, no pain. This time, at 3 minutes, his ECG changed. His heart was not doing well. 3 minutes, and I got quite shocked. He was feeling okay, but the heart has changed. So the stress test had to be stopped. He's not well. When I asked him what happened, he said, just came from a meeting with the MPPP. He wanted to develop a piece of land, So I had a 2-hour meeting with the MPPP officers, He gave up his plan for building that land, And 2 weeks later, I did a stress test and it was normal again. So there are plenty of evidence like that now where immediate stress will cause you a lot of trouble that can be seen by the doctor. Another woman worked for the company for 18 years. Then the owner sold to someone, called a meeting and said, I've sold to a new owner. All of you are given 1 month's notice and that's the end. No compensation. No. There and there at the meeting, she had a heart attack. Because she came to my clinic and I could see that she was having a heart attack. So all this acute stress causing direct muscle injury is real, So this is how it happens. It's all inflammation. Remember, heart attack, the unstable plaque, the unstable patient is not a simple block. It is when there is inflammation that will cause thrombosis and therefore damage to the muscle. It is when inflammation causes generalized body damage, blood pressure drops, severe fever, then there is a shortage of overall blood flow, a PBA problem that causes muscle damage. And finally, inflammation can directly damage the muscle, and then you get muscle injury. Now, this is why we are seeing so many people die suddenly, because they don't know they have heart disease, but they play down their inflammation. So what? A little bit of sore throat. So what? A bit of joint pain, nothing to it. But you can't stand it because your heart is getting damaged. So what causes inflammation? Mental and physical stress. You remember Sirbaghat Singh? Sirbaghat Singh is a diabetic. But Sirbaghat Singh died 5 days after vaccination. Where? On his bicycle, going for his regular 50-kilo bike ride. Now, if he was having a heart attack, chest pain, he can't go on bicycle to go and exercise. But he didn't realize that after vaccination or any sort of medication, your body is inflamed. And when your body is inflamed, you can't strain it the way you used to strain it. So you will die of a sudden cardiac death. And that happens to a lot of young people, a lot of hikers today. We must be careful of mental or physical stress or infection. Now, COVID isn't over. We don't test it. But every now and then, nowadays, everybody got running nose or sore throat. So when you have running nose or sore throat, rest. Don't push yourself because you might be having some form of heart inflammation at the same time. If you have some chronic disease, your asthma working up, your joint pains getting worse, your arthritis getting worse, rest. Don't push it because when your arthritis is getting worse, your body is inflamed. And remember, too much alcohol is bad for you, and there are people who take recreational drugs, and that's bad news for you. So, this is the medical part of my talk, to establish the academic literature to show that it is not the block, it is not the block, it is the inflammation. And be careful of inflammation. Now, it is quite clear that mental stress produces inflammation. Remember my blood test showing mental stress, people have inflammation. Now, to come to the meat of the talk, the mains of the dinner, what causes mental stress? And for this now, I again quote from good sources. We doctors don't know anything. We are as good as what we read, and we are as good as what our mind analyzes. And it is nowadays very difficult to analyze properly. But let me try to see if we can analyze it together. And if you disagree, you're welcome. You're very, very welcome to pass your comments, and maybe I will learn something from you, because by no means does any doctor have a monopoly of knowledge. It's an exchange of knowledge. So the first paper I'll quote to you is about psychosocial stress and stroke from JAMA Network Open 2022. Then I'll quote to you the Mental State of the World report from Global Mind Project. Then I'll quote the Global Happiness Survey 2023 and 2024 by Ipsos. And finally, the World Happiness Report, which is a different report by Gallup 2024, Gallup, Oxford University. So let's talk about the journal article, JAMA Network Open, Association of Psychosocial Stress with Stroke. Now, this looked at patients with a stroke. Worldwide study, big study, 13,000 people with strokes around the world, 13,000 people of same age, same sex, but no stroke. And they asked them, in the previous year, do you have stress? And these are the results. The cases of stroke versus those with no stroke, in every country around the world, stroke patients report higher stress. Whether they are from high income, low income, middle income, everywhere around the world, the stroke case reports higher stress than the non-stroke case. So among these 26,000 patients, 13,000 of which have stroke, 13,000 don't have. The report of stress was in 20% of people with stroke, but only 14% of people with no stroke. So if you are stressed at home, you are 95% higher risk of stroke. If you are stressed at work, bad news for you. You are 170%, 270% higher risk, more than doubling, almost a tripling of the risk of stroke. And if you have a recent stressful event, bankruptcy, death in family, 30% higher risk of stroke. So psychosocial stress is associated with stroke. That's the conclusion. But let's look at the data. Let's look at the data more deeply. Now, these divide them into continents. At a glance, you can look at the round block versus the star. Stars are lower stress. Overall, the blocks, higher stress. Now, where are the blocks for both cases and control? Southeast Asia. Bad news for us. We are under quite a lot of stress. But look at where else? Western Europe, North America, Australasia. Rich countries of the world. One would expect that they would be very well off. Next, poor region, Africa. And then look at where it's reported to be low. South Asia, India, China, South America. Not so rich. But why? Not so stressed. Very funny. Now look at it by income. Middle income, much lower. Low income, high stress. No food, very stressful. But look at high income, higher stress than middle income. So don't be too rich. There's a lot of evidence for this. I will show more later. Looking at the data here, higher stress people seem to be younger, higher education. In this particular report is higher education. Maybe more ambitious. The higher your education, the more you want. Maybe fatter people, less active people. These two I take to be less healthy. If you are fatter, you're not so active, it means you are less healthy. Then look at where the stress is. This is work stress. This is what? Home stress, financial stress, situational stress. Any type of stress doesn't matter. The more the stress, the more the stroke. So the point is, no stress is good. At home, at work, in your money, in life, no stress is good. Now, what makes less stress? That's what they want. Look, this talks about control. You can decide things. If you have work control, you are the COO, CEO, you are the chairman. But it makes no difference, The more work control, you don't seem to get less stroke. But look, if you have life control, the more life control you have, the less stroke you have. That means there are certain things you can't control at work. None of us can control work or what the government does, but we can control our life. And the report is that if you can have life control, then you are under less stress. So that is a point we must hear and listen to. We actually have control over our life. Work too stressful, get another job. It has to be like that, you know. If you have life control and can control, then your stress is less, your stroke is less. But forget about control at work. I never can control work. Okay, that's the journal article, and I think those are the lessons. Next, I thought of Mental State of the World Report 2023, publication of Global Mind Project. Look, very recent, March 2024. So I'm giving you state-of-the-art research-based data, not hocus-pocus medicine. Now, this is even better. Global Mind Project looks at 500,000 people, 71 countries, 13 languages. They interviewed them with an online survey. You go in, you online survey. They didn't include China and Russia. They looked at 6 dimensions, you know. They look at mind and outlook, mood and outlook, motivation, cognition, adaptability, mind-body connection, social esteem. They looked at a lot of parameters. Overall, score is 65. Of the average of 71 countries is 65, and 27% no good. They feel distressed and struggling. 38% of the world feels good, succeeding and thriving. So that's overall about 1/3 not doing well, 1/3 doing well, the rest about average around the world. But let's look at data by countries. Look, these are the top countries. Now try to see if you can see Dominican Republic, well-being, Sri Lanka, Tanzania, Panama, Malaysia, Nigeria. Percent distressing, low percentage distress. Sri Lanka, no food, but people say not distressed. Maybe got everybody no food. So Italy, Georgia, Nigeria, Armenia. These are not the rich countries of the world. Now, where are the rich countries of the world? Look, New Zealand. Look, Australia, United Kingdom. Mentally not well off. Percent distressing, New Zealand, Australia. Right at the very bottom at 35% distress, the United Kingdom. These are real facts. These are real facts. Now, let us look at Malaysia. We complain a lot. Everybody wants to send children away, migrate. Look at Malaysia. We are above Singapore. This is real. The chart cannot be produced. We are above the United States. In terms of the percentage of people who are distressed, Malaysia has less distressed people than Singapore and America. In terms of the reported overall well-being, mental well-being, Malaysia is higher than Singapore and the United States. But we are much poorer. So this is the executive summary. I don't alter it. I just lift it. Mental well-being is at post-pandemic low. No sign of movement. That means post-pandemic, the world not doing well, not getting better. And here they find it is the younger people that is worse off, those under 35. They are the worst off, and they had the steepest decline in mental well-being during COVID. Maybe because career prospects, education, everything got interrupted. But those under 35 now badly off. Now, this came from the report, not from me. Several African and Latin American countries top the rankings, while wealthier countries such as United Kingdom and Australia are towards the bottom. This suggests that greater wealth and economic development do not necessarily lead to greater mental well-being. So mental well-being is not a function of your wealth or your economic status. So the 2023 data shows this phenomenon, and they ask why. Why are people wealthy, economically developed, not mentally well off? They think it's smartphone at a young age. When you start them young, playing game, looking at smartphone, it's bad for them. It's bad for their development, it's bad for their thinking. Too much smartphone at a young age is bad. They eat ultra-processed food. Why is that bad? Because it's fast. They want everything fast. They don't enjoy their meal. Next, these tend to be calorie rich. They become fat, they become diabetic, hypertensive, and they have no long-term relationship. The friendship and family relationship is not there because of the online age. So they feel that these are the reasons for the internet-enabled wealthier societies that cause them actually to be badly off mentally. Now, that is the Global Mind Project. This is the Global Happiness Report. Came out March 2024. Do they see the same things? Well, similar, Malaysia is above New Zealand, Great Britain, Singapore, United States, and Australia. Clearly, the happiness of Malaysians at 77% higher than that of the richer countries. March 2024. Now, this one is very nice. This dwells into the reason. What makes people feel happier? Woman different from men. See, red one is woman, blue one is men. Now, what do women want? Women want relationship with partner or spouse. See, woman wants relationship. Women want mental well-being. They must feel mentally well, and most importantly, they want to feel loved. See, this top three for women, huh? Am I right? Relationship, they must feel mental well-being and they must feel loved. Tony, we men are different. We want financial situation good. Is it the men want financial good and then men want relationship with relatives, not with the spouse, you see. And then men wants to be appreciated. Appreciated means boss praise, not wife praise. You see. So this is real, no? And this is very interesting. When you look at it objectively, this is a chart that came from the report, and I think that's why the report is useful. Next, happiness and consumer confidence is highly correlated. To be happy, you must be a confident consumer, but not necessarily a rich consumer. This is very important. Look, China is right at the top. India is not far behind. Now, China and India, where got money? But they are confident because maybe things are cheap. So the buyer in China and India, or maybe there is economic growth. So they are confident consumers. Meanwhile, look at South Korea and Japan. They are very, very unhappy, because no confidence to spend. Maybe economy bad or whatever reason. Germany is there. So these are all Sweden. They are far richer than India and China, Brazil. But it is the confidence. It is not the level of wealth. If you have confidence in your spending ability, you are fine. But if you don't have confidence, no matter how rich you are not happy. Then what about marriage? Now, this is not the percentage divorce, the percentage failure. This is expectation of a happy marriage. See, Saudi Arabia, UAE, China, Brazil, India, they expect when they marry, even though arranged marriage, they expect it to be happy, It's the expectation, you see, because father like that, uncle like that, brother, everybody like that. So when we marry, we'll stay married. But meanwhile, look, Belgium, Turkey, Hungary, South Korea, Singapore, they see so much divorce. When they marry, they think going to divorce. They are very unhappy, you see. It's a phenomenon in the head. It's expectations of the ability to have a healthy marriage. So this is real, and this is what the reports say. Next, expectation of friends you can rely on. China, UAE, Brazil, India, Saudi Arabia, top. Means you feel you have a friend. Maybe same church, same mosque, Saudi Arabia. I don't know. But look at here, Hungary, Belgium, South Korea, Italy, Poland, France, South Africa, Netherlands. Nobody, no friend, only internet friend. So you don't feel happy, you see. So this is very interesting. Next, by economic wealth. High income in the purple. High income has flattened. Meanwhile, medium income seems to be growing. So if you are medium income but growing, confident, you feel happy. You rich guy, but you don't feel confident, no good for you. So next, happy people feel you must be useful. Now you must be in control, you must be valued, you must be satisfied. These are the criteria they gave down. And then pessimism, not happy, boomer. Boomers are people like me, we are the older generation. Then remember, they said higher educated, more stressful. This one found less educated, no good. Less educated, more pessimistic, unmarried, high income, more pessimistic. Maybe not productive, cannot earn money. Maybe high income countries, too much comparison, too much wealth that you see, very hard to feel satisfied. Maybe. So, my conclusion, based on the JAMA paper, Global Mind Project, Ipsos Happiness Publication, what increases stress makes it less happy if you are unhealthy. If you are fat, less active, unhealthy, very hard to be happy. Now, if you don't have life control, you can't decide on your life, you feel your life has no meaning, then you are in trouble. Very hard to be happy. If you don't have a stable human relationship, you don't feel loved, you don't feel appreciated, whether it's family love or whether appreciated at work, you don't feel this, you are in trouble. If your expectation of marriage relationship is no good, good or not is immaterial. You must expect that it will be good. No? Tonight I go home, she will hug me. Whether she will or not doesn't matter. You must feel that she will hug you. That is good for you. No? High expectation of relationship, and you must feel you have dependable friends. Fewer friends, dependable, not friends. All of us, plenty of Facebook friends. You must have dependable friends. And then you must be confident in your financial situation and to consume. The way to do that, I think, is don't buy expensive. I drive BYD. I wear Swatch. Don't wear Omega. So I think if you keep the ones low, then you can feel confident. Now, I think low or high income from the data isn't good. The Africans are not happy, but the developed society is not happy. If you are old, the boomer, more unhappy, maybe because you are disappointed in life. If you are young and restless and you can't make it, COVID, career blocked, too much stress at work, I think it's hard to be happy. So extremes are no good. You cannot be too poor, you cannot be too rich. Christina Onassis committed suicide. The boss of Samsung got sued by his children, and the children fought each other. So I think extremes of income no good. You cannot grow old disappointed, or you cannot be ambitious for what you cannot get. Now, if you are unskilled, untrained, not well educated, cannot hold good job, cannot be happy. But if you are highly educated but too ambitious, then you also cannot be happy. And then I think developed society is very hard to be happy. Now, why? I think unregulated media, data, opinion. Now, this came from the UK riots. See, with unrestricted internet and social media, you are in trouble. Today's report said that the fellow who first fingered a Muslim, they said that it was a Muslim who killed them, that came from a Pakistani Muslim. Now, why would someone in Pakistan Muslim try to post such a thing that resulted in a white man's riot? So the world today is very mad. You've got mad people posting a lot of things to incite people. And if you have unregulated access to these things, society becomes very troublesome. And then I now show you some more controversial things. Now this one, please pay attention. It's been quite long and you may be a bit tired late in the day, but pay attention. This is very nice. We are in a confusing era of conflict and controversy. And the reports on happiness are not consistent. Is there politics in publication? This is the famous Kellyanne Conway. She works for Donald Trump. And she says there are alternative facts. Donald Trump said, my crowd bigger than Barack Obama. Then people say, how can Barack everywhere got yours somewhere empty? He said, no, alternative facts. See where you look. You look at the crowded one, Donald Trump got more. Don't look at the place where there were no people. So, you see, in politics, even facts can be subjective, So we live in this kind of era now, so we've got to be very careful. Now, this is the Global Happiness Report 2024, which is a 30-country report. And this is the headlines. The Netherlands is the country where happiness is highest. 2024. Now, I showed you the 2024 report, but subsequently I showed you the 2023 report. Now this is true, So the finding for a 30-country Ipsos report showed top number 1, Netherlands. But look, who are the next 5 countries? Mexico, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Thailand. Quite different from Netherlands, isn't it? Then you've got Ireland, then Malaysia, So how come like that? Now, in 2023, there were 32 countries, but in 2024, it became 30 countries. See, 2023, 32 countries, same, Ipsos. 2024, it became 30 countries. 2 countries dropped. Now, this is 2023. Look at it. Canada, US, 76% happy. Brazil, higher, 83. Australia, 80% happy. China, 91. Saudi Arabia, 86. India, 84. Look at Europe. All 70s only, Great Britain 70, Belgium 68, France 74, all 70 except Netherlands 85. So if you look at the 2023 report, when there were 32 countries, the top 2 were China and Saudi Arabia. And then they were dropped, in 2024. So without China and Saudi Arabia, Netherlands topped the list. That's true, And someone commented on this, why drop China and Saudi Arabia, the top 2? Ipsos never replied. Now, you go back to the graph. This is all true. Cannot make this one. You look at this. See, China, this is the 2023. China and Saudi Arabia have been around since 2011. See, this ended in 2023. Meanwhile, Netherlands only came in 2000. Then the others, India, Brazil, also long history. So they dropped 2 with a long history, and now finally, who wins the race? Netherlands. You see, this is how the world works now. You see, so this is very interesting. You drop the top 2, then Netherlands will win. So the headlines is Netherlands top. But please remember, if you look at the Netherlands top, even if you look at Netherlands top, I went too fast already. Let me try to get it again. Even if you see Netherlands top, look at the next 5. Nowhere like Netherlands. Even in 2024, second Mexico, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Thailand. So the principle of you don't have to be a rich country to be happy is still true. Netherlands is the outlier because all the rest of Europe is nowhere like, you see, all the rest of Europe is not high. It's only Netherlands that is the outlier that has now become the winner. Now, next, another one. This WHO one. World Happiness Report. Finland, top of the list. This came up March 2024. US News and World Report. Now look at the top. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, all the rich countries. What happened to my poor countries? United Kingdom, everybody is rich, man. United States, Malaysia, India, all gone already. Now, very funny. Look at how they surveyed the data. Look, they base it on 6 parameters. What's the first one? GDP per capita. So by definition, to be happy, you must have high GDP per capita. Now, like that, Korea already, India, China, Nigeria, all. So these are their 6 criteria. They base it on these 6 key variables, GDP per capita. Next, freedom. Freedom to write, I suppose, scold government. I don't know. Next, perception of corruption. Okay? You see, campaign donation by big companies giving $1 billion for presidential election is not corruption. Giving a politician a suitcase of cash is corruption. See? After presidency to get directorship, after presidency to get speaking assignment, 1 million per speech is not corruption because you are no longer president. See? So perception of corruption. Now, then next, look how they do it. In the developed world, telephone methodology is typical in US, Canada, Western Europe, Japan. For how long? For 30 minutes. Telephone interview in the developed world for 30 minutes. Telephone interview are about 30 minutes. Next, in the developing world, what do? Face-to-face interview. And how long is a face-to-face interview? 1 hour. So they'll sit with you until you say country is corrupt and you are poor and you have no freedom. Now, how to have different methodology in 2 different parts of the world and say you come up with a fair world happiness report. And that's why I think Bhutan is dead and gone. It cannot come in with GDP, with all these kind of parameters. So what you publish depends on what you look for. And where does this come from? It comes from Gallup, University of Oxford, and look at all the other universities, Columbia, London School, all the Western, British Columbia, Simon Fraser University. So the World Happiness Report is inconsistent with Global Mind Project and Global Happiness Report. And the methodology, I think, is biased towards the wealthy developed world. They look at GDP per capita, they look at freedom, corruption, perception. So the way they bias their research and survey, I think is quite obvious. This one is just last weekend, It came out in the Business Times weekend edition, Houston Kwa. Houston Kwa is a fellow of the Penang Institute. And in pursuit of higher quality of life. And it says here, the 2022 Quality of Life Survey conducted by NUS Business School revealed that there has been an overall decline in well-being among Singaporeans. An overall decline in well-being among Singaporeans over the past decade, despite rising income levels. Singaporeans are getting richer. They are earning more, but their quality of life survey has dropped. And this professor of economics asks why. And this came out last weekend in the Business Times. And this is the same thing that the Ipsos graph showed, that amongst the high-income countries, happiness has plateaued, but in the middle-income countries, it's going higher. So I will attempt to answer it here. I think in developed worlds, there's too much freedom. Too many opinions, you have too many choices, you become confused. And then you don't have enough family bonding, education and upbringing. You see, a 21-year-old actress dates a 65-year-old businessman and it's big news. China is not that much better because there are parts of China that's very rich. This is an 80-year-old man marrying a 20-year-old girl. This is state of healthcare, NHS doctors going on strike. 11 times they have gone on strike. First time ever, nurses joined them in strike. Waiting lists in A&Es in UK is now days. This is South Korea strike. And this is an American doctor and journalist who wrote about American sickness. Healthcare costs have exploded because of big companies, big hospitals. She said she used to go and see a doctor in his clinic and got an injection, and she paid $2,000. The doctor then moved to a hospital. His practice got bought up by a hospital. Same doctor, same injection, same time, but in the hospital with pipe-in music, she paid $20,000 because of insurance and companies. So she actually is no longer an American sickness, it's a worldwide healthcare sickness. Now, what makes people happy? 2023 report, impact of gratitude intervention in people with heart disease. So what they do is gratitude. How do you induce gratitude? Ask people to write gratitude journal. That means every day think of what you have got, write it down. Or talk to a fellow and say, what do you recall being grateful for? So they intervene this, then they measure the heart, inflammatory markers, heart parameters, cholesterol levels, and they find that gratitude improves cardiovascular outcome, that there is a positive impact on the biomarkers of cardiovascular disease as regards heart failure, cardiac function, autonomic nervous system activity. So when you feel gratitude, grateful, you are healthier, your heart is. And I quote chapter 33 of Tao Te Ching, which is a very ancient Chinese text, 2,500 years ago. This one is quoted quite a lot by George Yeo. George Yeo is a Catholic Christian advisor to Vatican, former foreign minister of Singapore, and he says he's a Taoist because Taoism is supposed to be a way of life. Now, chapter 33 says, 强行者有志，知足者有福. That means the forceful, those who are aggressive, forceful, they have ambition. But the contented are the wealthy ones. You must know enough. This one is 知足, it means know enough, then you are wealthy. So wealth is a frame of mind, of satisfaction. And I think this lack of contentment, lack of gratitude, And excess of ambition is what makes the developed world more stressful, more unhappy. And so I think to reduce mental stress and increase happiness, we have to concentrate on internal. The only way and only control you have is internal satisfaction. And you cannot have external desire and comparison. If you always want another person's thing, something that you don't have, you are in trouble. No? So concentrate on internal, not the external. And this is what the chapter 12 says. You know? The 5 colors blind our eyes, the 5 tones deafen our ears, the 5 flavors confuse our taste. Racing and hunting madden our minds. Possessing rare treasures brings harm. So you seek rare treasures, harm will befall you. Therefore, the sage acts for his gut, not for his eyes. Now, if you look after your stomach, enough to eat, you are full. Look after your stomach, you're fine. Look after your eyes, you want things, you are in trouble. So what does he do? He lets go of outside and chooses inside. You can't care too much for what others have, what others say, what others think of you. No? You must choose yourself. Then you have control. And remember, they say, control of life brings less stress, less stroke. So you can control yourself and seek to control yourself for better cardiovascular health. And with that, I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ong. I think everyone agree with me that very wonderful talk, interesting. And then thanks to all the audience that who had grabbed your hands to as appreciation to Dr. Ong. Yeah, so he can sleep well tonight. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like the last phrase that you saw that, you know, nowadays people go to restaurant, they take the photo first before they serve their food. It's totally opposite. Yeah? I mean, they take the image and then they say, yeah. When they take the photo, it's for the eyes, not for the gut. So they are doing opposite things. Yeah? Okay. Okay, they're open to any questions. Yes.
Dr. Ong, we very often hear from young practitioners especially that there is a high correlationship between cholesterol and cardiovascular disease. I'm surprised that you didn't mention it at all. Are we wrong?
Okay, I think you have to be careful about correlation and association. When you talk about correlation, there's of course a correlation between obesity and heart disease, diabetes and heart disease, cholesterol and heart disease. So you have to be careful with association. Now, the association between cholesterol and cardiovascular disease is like the association between age and heart disease. You can't deny it. You can try to argue many ways. There are young people who get heart attack, but generally more old people get heart attack. So higher your cholesterol, higher your risk. But it doesn't mean if your cholesterol is low, you have no heart disease. That's not true. And it doesn't mean if your cholesterol is high, you will get heart disease. That's also not true. So it is not a one parameter thing. Cholesterol is one of the many parameters. But that is different from talking about the medicines. The medicines are the statins. Now, the statins are promoted and thought of by people as cholesterol medicine. They are not. They are heart attack medicine. In patients with heart attack, if you give them statin, you reduce the risk of death and further heart attack. The evidence is clear. But remember what I said, in patients with heart attack or stroke. So if you have a heart attack and stroke and you refuse to take a statin, then you are wrong because the journals are so clear. But if your cholesterol is high, you have no heart attack, should you take a statin? That's a complicated issue. That's a different issue. That's primary prevention. So the evidence is very clear, We don't treat cholesterol, we treat heart disease. And the journals will tell you, depending on your risk, your eligibility for the medicine differs. So I've asked a profound question, the answer for which involves many parts. But while we do not want to be confused by one side, we must also not go to the other extreme. Remember what they showed, that the middle path is the correct one. If you have heart disease and stroke, your chances of dying is much higher of heart disease and stroke. So you have to take the statins. But statins have side effects. They raise sugar, cause myopathy, affect moods. So there's no good without bad. So you've got to balance the risk. Yes, yes.
Dr. Ong, thank you very much for an excellent pedagogical speech. Really enjoyed it. You tried to draw the line between mental health, inflammation, and heart disease. But when we think about inflammation, there are obviously other things that are impacting it. You briefly mentioned alcohol, for instance, but lifestyle choices in terms of nutrition, foods, etc. You mentioned the fast food, which has shown again and again to be a great source of inflammation that not only impacts the heart, but also a number of other chronic disease, etc. How do we separate these things out, and why is it that the medical profession in general have put so low priority in terms of their own education, but also counseling patients on lifestyle issues such as nutrition?
If you read all our journals, the first thing they always talk about hypertension, heart disease is lifestyle. Unfortunately, there's an area that people won't change and you can't do very much for. And like all humans, doctors like to be able to do something. So we end up giving medicine or operation or doing something, and then we feel quite happy that we have done something. Then it's only later that we look at the data to see, have we really done something? Is it good or is it bad? Very much like the vaccine. With the vaccine, everybody whack first. Think about it later, But there was a need. And if you have a need for medicine, you have to take the medicine. But there's no doubt that all these lifestyle things are very important. But how to study? Even mental stress itself is so hard to study, They have done a study, that's how I got involved with the Chinese, that when people meditate, the gut becomes better. How do they see the gut gets better? Because they test the feces. That amongst people who meditate, and for this they use Buddhist monks, that the gut is healthier in terms of the fecal microbiota, they say, the fecal organisms. But the same group of people, because in Tibet, you can be a monk and you can go out, and you just are a villager. So at the time when you are not a monk and become a villager, your gut is no longer so good, even though you eat the same food. And what is the only difference? They say meditation time. So when you meditate, it makes your body healthier. So there are so many parameters of lifestyle that makes it very hard to study. But you're absolutely right. Lifestyle is very important for controlling inflammation. And we don't understand inflammation fully. That's why there are so many papers and publications now that inflammation is the cause of all our problems. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, I'm somebody who tries to understand more about heart health. A few things that I saw in the slides. One thing is work stress and irregular rhythm, right? So I'm curious about how do you monitor and measure at home, cell check, cell monitor. That's one. Another one is physical stress. I assume that is exercise and sports because you brought in Rebecca Singh's case. So how do we know whether we are under exercise, over exercise, and we see a lot of people drop dead playing soccer, badminton, and now people think that badminton is really stressful thing. And the third question, I forgot my third question, but third question, yes. Inflammatory marker. What is that? Is that can you measure that from blood tests and how do you do all this?
Okay, I'll answer your last question first. Inflammatory markers are measured in your blood, but by the doctor. You see, I try to give you information on what you can do, but you're not a doctor, you see. Now, this becomes a problem because unless you are a doctor, and unless you are a doctor who reads, it becomes very difficult in your ability to do things and test for yourself. So I think you shouldn't try to do tests for yourself. Shouldn't. Because you will not know enough and you can get confused. Like for example, cholesterol, blood pressure level, inflammatory markers. What is normal and abnormal? It's not by the level, it's by the damage. So it's very difficult to explain to you. That is, your sugar can be very high, cholesterol very high, no damage, forget about it. Can be low, got damage, you are in trouble, have to treat. So the concept of thinking of doctors in the journals is totally different from what you're thinking about. You're talking about levels. So I think don't try to be a doctor. That's one. But two, only you can look after yourself. So you ask me a lot of questions. So let's start with work stress. You have to know yourself. Now, most of the time, we don't want to know ourselves. We bluff ourselves. Because we want the money, we want the praise, we want the promotion. Then we say no stress. But that's not true, you know. If you cannot sleep, if you have no appetite, you got headache, you got neck ache, you are overstressed. So every time you feel unwell, your body is inflamed. So listen to the body. No appetite, vague stomach discomfort. Not healthy already. Rest. Now, if it doesn't go away, what to do? See a doctor, try and get proper tests. So you will know yourself. Inflammation causes all the bad things. When are you inflamed? You know your joint a bit stiff, your body a bit tired, eyes a bit droopy. No energy today. Well, rest lah. Now, what is it so difficult? No energy today, rest. Don't go and play badminton. Because we want to keep the appointment. We want to say we can. So the problem is we don't listen to in. The mind overrides the body in seeking something that the mind wants us to get, which is the basis of the problem. So there's no direct answer to you. It is clear that stress is bad. How much stress is bad? Different people, different. You see? But when you don't feel good, take note of what your body is telling you. So a lot of people always say, I can't sleep. That means something is wrong. Unless you're having chest pain or breathlessness when you can't sleep, or you're peeing a lot, then if you can't sleep, something is wrong with your rhythm. Then ask yourself, why is it wrong? Where is it wrong? Something like that. So that's stress. Now, stress, the paper just shows is bad for your heart. Should you start measuring your heart, buying Apple Watch and all? My answer to you, I don't think it's very good now. Because if you do that, you are then starting to do things that you're not very clear about. Now, can you feel your own pulse? Yes. Below your thumb, you just press, you can feel pulse. Below the neck, you press, you can feel pulse. If it beats, you're okay lah, still alive lah. You see, now, if it beats too fast or too slow, see a doctor. If it beats irregularly, see a doctor. That one I think you can do lah. Sometimes people feel thump in the chest. Not sure, see a doctor. But you can always feel, you see, like that lah. Then, how much should you exercise? The maximum heart rate for your age is 220 minus age. So if you are 65 like me, my maximum heart rate is 220 minus 65, 155. Or 100 what? No, 155. I'm 65, so 155 is my maximum heart rate. But I mustn't hit maximum. Because if you hit maximum, A, it's dangerous, B, you cannot last. So you hit only 85% of maximum. Even if you hit 85% of maximum, is considered maximum. So if you want to exercise, hit 85% of your maximum. But then once you hit it, you must slow down to 75%. Because at 75%, you can go on. So when you exercise, try to hit between 75 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. That way, you can build stamina. If you do less than 75, pass time, but may not be stamina building. So that's the answer to how to exercise. And then, cannot overdo, again, listen to your body. Now, there are studies to show that after running a marathon, bad for you. They take your blood and all abnormal. They scan your heart. After you run marathon, your heart is abnormal. There's damage to the heart muscle because you have overstrained. How much is maximum you can do? No exercise, no good. But doesn't mean exercise. physical activity. If your wife wants you to wash the floor, please volunteer. That's good for you. The more physical work you do of whatever type, better for you. So go to a restaurant or something, park the car further away. Climb the stairs, don't use escalator. More physical work you do, better for you. There are studies to show whether at leisure physical activity or occupational physical activity, the more you do, the lower the risk of all sorts of heart trouble, stroke, heart attacks, lower. Is there a level where it goes up again? Possibly. Now, we are not sure whether it goes up, but we think so. How much? A marathon a week. Don't do more than a marathon a week. So a marathon is about 42 kilos. So when you run and all, don't do more than 42 kilos a week. That's the rough guide about how much you can do. Thanks.
Can I ask you?
Yes, sure.
Can I, okay, so basically my question will be in two parts. First part will be for you, and then the second part is for Dr. Tay. Since we have the psychiatry in the room, so I wanted to ask. So first part is about, yes, following Keith's question that is about exercise, is about maintenance. I perceive it as maintenance. It's a maintenance of lifestyle. It's a maintenance of like you say, according to your body, right? So a combination of different exercise and whatnot would actually theoretically be better for the heart. But will that actually help strengthen the heart so that it can last longer, for example? I don't know. Like, there are people that say you must have cardiovascular while you do yoga, while you do strength and blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So how would that?
Okay. To take your question again, let me break it down into parts. Number one, everybody has a strong heart. Because if you have a weak heart, by our definition, you will not be well. That means you will be breathless. When I do tests on you, I can see your legs may be swollen, you can't lie flat. So all of us who can walk should, in general, have a weak heart. So what you want? Huh? No, I have a strong heart. Sorry, should have a strong heart. Now, what you are then asking for is what can we do in terms of exercise to make ourselves healthy? Maintain our health. It's not so much as to strengthen the heart. There's nothing you can do to strengthen the heart because your heart is already strong. But you can improve your fitness. That is different from strengthening your heart. So what are the exercises you can do that improves your fitness, well-being, and hopefully extend your life? What are the things? Now, there are three types of exercises. The first type of exercise is aerobic stamina building exercise. So that involves going long distances for longer time. So it's not so much how intense you can run, but like the long distance runner, you want to try and build up longer and longer over time. And like I said, you go between 75 to 85% of your target heart rate for as long as you like. Any amount is good. There is no too little. And at the top level, a marathon a week. So that is aerobic exercise for building stamina, for building fitness. Okay. The second exercise is muscle exercise, because it's not the heart that gets weak, but the muscles. See, your muscles get weak. Now, a lot of people, as we grow old, got a lot of pain because our joints are no good. While we can't do anything for the joints, short of replacement, we can strengthen the muscles. If your muscles are strong, your joints are better off. And you see the Shaolin show, they always start off by the horse stance. Yeah? So nowadays, when I measure blood pressure, I try and bend my legs. Not easy, After a while, my legs shake and I can't quite hear the blood pressure, Very fast, your legs shake, So muscle strengthening exercise are the next set that is quite important, especially of the legs. And all of us are too big up there and too small for the legs. So we'll try to strengthen the legs. We do not want to overdo it again, because too much weightlifting will make the heart muscle thick. Like your hands, and that's not so healthy. So while you do weights, yes, but you don't want to become an Olympic weightlifter because it's not so good for the heart. So one is weight, and by the way, weights are good for your bones. So a lot of people take calcium. Actually, no need. If you carry weights, your bones will be healthy. Yeah? So one is stamina, two is muscle. Now, what is the third? The third is balance. Balance. See, all of us, as we get older, coordination is bad. We don't turn so fast and we keep falling. So the third type of exercise is balance. What are the two exercises that are especially good for balance? Yoga and Tai Chi. Dancing may be another one, no? Because you have to keep balance if you want to dance or you want to Tai Chi, you see. So they always, so the journals will talk about it, that you want to advise the patient to have these three types of exercises for better cardiovascular fitness.
Thank you for the first part. Now my second part for Dr. Teh is that because Dr. Ong mentioned a lot about stress at work, stress at home, stress everywhere. Acknowledging stress, would that actually help on its own reduce the stress itself already? I mean, it's not easy, it's easier said than done, right? So how would that actually help one person to start that stress reduction process? Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, your question is ordinary stress, right? Ordinary stress, right? Okay, the first thing is that we cannot choose to have no stress, zero stress. That's not a choice. Yeah. Stress is our reaction, including emotional and physical reaction to any changes. Our life is full of changes. So, like many decades ago, there was a famous study to show that many events, even like the job promotion, even the Christmas, that also can cause stress. Yeah. So not only negative events cause stress. Yeah. So okay. So back to your questions. That well, stress is also related to our coping to the external demand. So that, for example, in the study, they quote that the public speaking, for people who have no experience in public speaking, and then they concern so much about how good the performance, then they get more anxious. For people that who are that can be trained public speaking, they're trained and then more confident, then they become the less anxious and less stressed. Yeah. So sometimes we say some level of the stress could be good. I mean, it means that if you improve your coping, yeah, then of course, then you deal with the future stress, you can cope better. Yeah.
Can I also touch on this? Okay. The problem of stress, as Dr. Teh has said, is that it is the fight or flight reflex, All of us are born with a fight or flight. Now, that means in the old days, when we were hunters, we see an animal. We have to kill it or we run. So when you see an animal, then you have to mount the stress response to quickly eat the meat, catch the meat for food, or run away, fight or flight. But
now we add the fight, fright, and freeze. Sometimes it's good to stay cool. Yeah, okay, sorry.
It's okay. But the problem is, in the old days that we had this and we are born with this, it is rarely applied. See, not every day you have to fight or flight, and you have to fight or flight only once in a while. The rest of the time, nothing. You walk slowly back, you cook, plenty of time to cool down. But now it's different. Now we use the fight or flight response for everything. You see meeting. You go from meeting to meeting. So every hour you are having this response. And that's why it's unhealthy. So your question is, should we acknowledge it? Is acknowledging useful? Of course, definitely. Because if you don't acknowledge it, it never can get better. So you must learn about yourself, like I said, see whether you are having stress. See whether you are applying this fight or flight response unnecessarily. Why should you make it so big over such a small thing? And then perhaps you have to find people to talk to. Maybe just the act of saying something helps. And then you want to do, because the more you keep it inside yourself, I think the more unhealthy it is, you see. You can go and talk to Dr. Tay and colleagues, or you can even talk to friends, or you can talk to counselors, or you can talk to a senior fellow of the place who is gone to sleep already, who will then loan you 1,000 ringgit and solve all your problems. So you must be able to look for solutions for yourself. Now, the point is actually, you are capable of that, because all of us are very smart now, you know. All of us are educated, all of us can read, all of us can think, but we use our mind for the wrong things. We use it to chase promotion, money, reputation. We don't use it to protect our life, you know. And so that's not so healthy. So recognize yourself, recognize your stress, and find your way of relieving it. And the options are all over for you to find.
To add on that, I mean, the impact of chronic stress, the impact of chronic stress could be much worse than you had a big project, you had to rush acute stress. Then after that, you rest. Yeah, so rest, get yourself free intermittently from the stress is very much helpful. If you cannot totally, I mean, sometimes the stress, no choice, we have to face the stress, but then you must allow yourself intermittently free from stress. So people who carry the work stress until back home still stressed, nighttime, bedtime also still stressed, that become the chronic stress.
Yes,
You mentioned yoga and Tai Chi. One of the things that there was a study in Switzerland done, and they found that the most remarkable exercise ever that they found in relation to all was actually the Islamic prayer, which, you know, you do 5 times a day, and all the movements that were involved, together with the breathing. When you go down, you let go your air. When you breathe up, you come up, and your posture is straight. And when it's done properly, it's just a remarkable little study. And I thought I'd just mention that in terms of the natural. The other is something that people have forgotten, and this is laughter. And now there are laughter groups because people have not learned, they have forgotten how to really laugh, fully. And the scientific studies show how when you laugh, the whole system works very, very differently. And because we are forgetting it, in India, they actually started laughter clubs so that you can go and spend a certain amount of time and you learn to laugh in the place. And the third thing I wanted to say is the subject of headaches, how headaches are a kind of indicator. What kind of indicator are they? Is it just something physical, or is it again a stressful one?
Yeah, no, I think it's a tightening of muscles. You see, if you're thinking a lot, you'll be tightening your muscle, and after a while, it's like if you hold your hand tightly, you have chronic discomfort from it. When I examine people, I test the reflexes of the leg, and I have to bend it. Most of the time I can't bend the legs, because I'm not a strong guy, and the guy's legs is stiff, and I keep telling him relax, relax, but he said I'm relaxed, but why is his leg stiff? So you see, people are so unrelaxed that they can't relax anymore. And this thing about prayer, I want to add to what you say. I feel prayer is very good of all denominations, but I feel it's been done wrongly. You see, people now pray to say they pray, they dress up to say, I'm going for prayer, whether it's Friday or Sunday or a temple occasion. And they go for the prayer, but they don't actually pray. Can you imagine what happens if for 5 times a day, you go to a place and tell yourself, my life is in the hands of God. I have to let go of my problems because God is great and God will be the one to solve my problems. If you do that really 5 times a day, I think you'll be much lighter and stress-free, But we don't do that now. Whatever prayer we do now seems to be the show of it, but not the internal. So when I see patients, say if they have a bad condition, and I ask them, are you religious? Do you have a religion? They say yes, but when I start quoting the holy books, because I try to read and use it to reinforce, they are not aware of the teaching, you know, that everything you try and seek the kingdom of God within, you know, things like that, that you must try to heal yourself and let go of the problems, believe in God really, rather than try and control outcomes. You know, that like the serenity prayer, you know, God gives me the strength to change what I can and accept what I cannot, and then know the difference through wisdom. So if you really are spiritual, I think it's very healthy for you. Just like the Buddhist monks who meditate, then have better fecal biodata. You know? So it's like that. I think religion heals, you know. And as does love, you know, there's a study to show that if a person knows that there is prayer for him, it works. You know. But if the prayer is done outside, behind him, it doesn't work. You know. So he must see that people are praying, love him, and he will heal faster. So it is the love that will make people better.
One of the things is that prayer nowadays, because people also rush from work, they go there, park your car, then rush into the mosque, you know, and do that. And that has lost.
Yes.
That has lost the kind of quietness,
Yes.
meditation. So very often they say, don't go. You don't have to rush to the mosque to pray. You know, like on Fridays or special occasions, then you have a gathering to do. The rest of the time, you have quiet space there and spend a quiet time with yourself, and that's the real prayer.
Yes.
That's when actually you do a little bit of relaxation. The whole act of even washing yourself up. You know, here are my fingers. You know, and there's a prayer a system where when you even do that, you actually say a few things. When you wash hand, may my hand do good things. You know, when you wash your, you know, mouth, may I say nice things. When you wash your ears, you know, may I hear kind. So people make it into a nice, like a spiritual, deep kind of way, and those things really make you very relaxed and, you know, and very comfortable.
Yes.
Thank you very much for a very informed lecture, very scholastic, a lot of references to the journal, and you have actually substantiated all your statements that you want to put forward. I appreciate that very much. It's a lot of work that has gone into it. You did mention a few things in your lecture concerning how to keep healthy in terms of diet, in terms of consumption of various things, including alcohol. I remember some years back, many years back, there was a study in the journal as well as in the media that the most healthiest country in the world was Greece. And one of the studies showed they had the lowest number of heart attacks. And having to discover why they had the lowest number, it seemed they drank wine every day. So drinking wine, according to the precedents in Greece, seem to substantiate that you will not get a heart attack and will be healthy. But in your lecture, you said, be careful of alcohol consumption. I agree to that. I think that there must be a certain level to that. I just want to look at that point. Now, having to state that point, I noticed that a lot of your substantiation from your journals are all Western in nature. Forgive me for saying that. I would be more interested to know how Asian would view heart problems in an Asian context, and how Asian journals have looked into this area to find a way forward. So is there a correlation or is that similar? Does that mean that Western journals identification of facts and figures are similar to that of Asian system setting? Is my question. Secondly, you have divided your lecture into two sections. One, the heart, and second is the mental well-being. I like both. I think it's important. Coming from a theological perspective, we think mental stress is very important. We have a scope, we have a study, and we implement something called pastoral care within our theological expressions. So pastoral care handles that part of it. Now, my question then would be, by reducing the stress level, does that mean that you can reduce inflammation of your heart? That's one question. Subsequent to that, we know that God has created us in a very unique way. So unique that the body itself can heal in itself. Can that possibility take place?
Okay. There are many points to your thing. I'll take the later ones first. Reducing stress, can you reduce inflammation? Of course. That's a short answer. Definite. No stress, biomarkers for inflammation go down. And it correlates very well with attacks. So acute anxiety, inflammation goes up. When the disease is under control, it goes down. So yes, if you reduce stress, your inflammation goes down. Next, the question of healing. As a man of the book, a man of God, you talk of God creating. But as a scientist, as a doctor, we talk of stem cells. Now, this is very interesting. In all our studies, we just know that if we give medicine, they will heal better than if we don't. But some of those that we give medicine to don't heal. And some of those that don't get medicine will heal. No trial is 100%. All given medicine, heal. All not given medicine, die. No trial like that. It's a percentage odds, which raises the question, why do those people who don't get medicine heal? Why do those who got the medicine or got the operation not heal? So we don't know, you see. And a colleague asked me recently, there's so much data now. What happens when a patient asks you and you don't know? I say, reply, I don't know. Because there is much that we don't know. But we seem to see this, that some will heal. Now the Vatican has miracles. You must do 3 miracles before you can be a saint. And this is all very well recorded. And to get a miracle, they have to go through doctors. So they've got to get the doctors, like a miracle cancer. They've got to get the doctors to look at the slide, to testify, yes, the cancer did go away. When we think medically, it cannot go away. This kind of things is been recorded and written up by a doctor who was not Catholic, but who was part of the process, you know. So miracle healing happens. How do we explain it? I think the healing center is internal. That's the concept of the stem cell, you see. When we were born, we have cells that can grow into anything. And even now, a lot of people believe in stem cells. But the method of trying to give you stem cell or to stimulate your stem cell doesn't work. We don't have that ability. So your heart is damaged. We inject stem cell, doesn't work. The heart doesn't recover. Your nerve is cut. Inject stem cell, somehow or other, the nerve doesn't grow back. But they are still researching this. It is very likely that the healing center is internal. That's why those who feel loved, those who feel that prayers are for them, they recover, you see. And that's why some of those we treat recover, and some who are not treated recover. You see. So the answer is, as doctors, we don't know fully. And that's why at the deepest level, doctors and spiritualism, I think, are not too different. And I'm also from the things you said, like the mouth, the way we wash, it reminds me of the Japanese tree monkeys, Buddhist tree monkeys. Say no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And then again, where do you pray? You don't have to pray in the mosque. It reminds me of the saying of Jesus, where do you pray? Do I pray in the temple in Jerusalem? Or, so the answer is always pray inside, And I think it goes back to the way of life, concentrate on your inside. So the answer to that, I think, is it's real, that the healing center is internal. Whether it's given by God or given by the force that made us, I do not know. But the bigger thing I do not know, and I think we do not know, is how to stimulate it. Which we have to try. Some do it through prayer, some do it through meditation or whatever. But I think you encourage your patient to best stimulate his healing center. And then finally, back to the question of alcohol. Now, alcohol has gone through a big circle. The thing you spoke about is the Mediterranean diet and the Mediterranean study. Whether it's food or the wine, the Mediterraneans have a much lower risk of heart disease despite high cholesterol. They have very high cholesterol, but no heart disease. So they think it's the diet, or is it the lifestyle? Because their siesta, their lunch is very long. Or is it their wine? We don't know. So previously, they used to recommend drink wine, drink alcohol, 10 to 20 grams a day because it raises HDL, which is protective cholesterol. Now that we used to say until about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they came out with more papers that showed that people who drink actually don't live longer. And why don't they live longer? They get involved in reckless activities. They get more accidents, they get into fights and things like that. So overall, there is no benefit. So the overall advice now is don't drink. If you haven't started, don't drink. If you have no more than 1 or 2 glasses a day. So women, they say 1 glass max. Means men, 1 small can, 2 cans of beer. Women, 1 can of beer or 1 glass of wine a day max. The third point is cannot binge drink. Now, which is the bad thing that we do? We don't drink, but once we drink a lot. That's called binge drinking. That type of alcohol consumption is very bad because it makes your blood more viscous. It makes your blood pressure go up. So that increases cardiovascular disease. So you see, for the simple question of alcohol, it has gone round in a circle with so many papers, it's very hard to come out with any concrete answer. As the reports change, the position of the doctor will have to change,
Okay, I think yes. The night's late already, and I think this time that we should go back to have a good rest, not so be so stressful. Yes. And the speaker also need to take a rest. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everyone.